Now, you'll have to just pick me up.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a little something to say. In 1960, I moved from Michigan to Concord with my family. Marcia Stearns, who was plumber at that time, I don't know if you know Marcia Stearns,
yes.
She headed up the Concord Fair Practices Committee. In short order, she contacted me, and that began my long career as a Concord radical and rabble-rouser. Along the way, I found myself working streets and alleyways with some of the most remarkable women on the planet.
Yes.
These were women with clear eyes, intelligence, unwavering idealism, and a single goal: to change a 6,000-year culture of war, poverty, and inhumanity. I will name just a few who, aside from my wife, had an enormous effect on my 49-year stay in Concord. The list is too long to name, but certainly the list would include Jean Rosner, Judy Scott, Vicki, Carol Dwyer, Beth Dawson, Ann Victor, Evelyn Zook,
Yes.
you might remember her,
Yes.
and Stephanie Roeder. I have long thought a book on the great peacemaking women of Concord and our surrounding towns would be a bestseller.
Great idea.
And Eno, the kind, gentle, ferociously dedicated person with a quick wit, as you've noticed, and a flair for the poetic, is right up there with the rest of them. Whenever my mind turns to Anne and all the other women who fight against war and justice, I am reminded of John Greenleaf Whittier's poem, maybe you know it, Captain Iverson's Ride. Skipper Iverson of Marblehead abandoned his sinking ship with all his crew on board, and the wives, mothers, and townspeople went after him with a vengeance. They tarred and feathered him and carried him in a cart through the streets of Marblehead, shouting as they went, "Old Floyd Iverson for his hard heart, tarred and feathered and carried in a cart by the women of Marblehead." And here are just a few verses to give you from Whittier's poem. Small pity for him, he sailed away from a leaking ship in Shaler Bay, sailed away from a sinking wreck with his own townspeople on her deck. Lay by, they called to him. Then he answered, sink or swim. Think of your catch of fish again. And off he sailed in the fog and rain. And old Floyd Iverson, for his hard heart, tarred and feathered and carried in a cart by the women of Marblehead. Through the streets, on either side, up flew windows, doors swung wide. Sharp-tongued spinsters, old wives gray, treble-length the fish-horns bray. Sea-horn grandsires, cripple-bound, shook head and fist and hat and cane, and cracked with curse the hoarse refrain, old Floyd Iverson for his hard heart, tarred and feathered and carried in a cart by the women of Marblehead. Now, for the women of Marblehead, just substitute Anne and the Concord area women. And for Iverson, substitute Rumsfeld, Cheney, and and you can see why the poem strikes a chord with me. I am 85, Anne is 80. If you're a youngster,
you may not make it.
I should be the wiser of the two.
Let me call you
Then
back,
you will.
okay?
but Ann bests me by a long shot. And I will follow her into the 90s as best I can, wherever she might lead.
Oh.